Friends, another prominent figure involved in the Mindichgate scandal is quite a character, known by the colorful name Alibaba. This statement, moreover, was made by the head of the Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office. But first, I want to bring up another point, one that's perhaps even more intriguing. It's the current situation with the imprisoned Kolomoisky, who is a close friend of Bogolyubov and a key associate of the not yet president Volodymyr Zelensky before the presidential election, right? How this very man is now openly making fun of the massive corruption scandal involving Tymur Mindich, even discussing a secret slush fund that supposedly exists somewhere among these individuals whom Kolomoisky himself describes as conspirators, quite reminiscent of the Italian mafia. He even refers to Mindich himself, Timurchik, saying, he proclaims that Timurchik is in hot water, and he characterizes Timurchik as a devil, a scoundrel, who is only in charge of trivial matters, such as grilling kebabs. And regarding Chernyshov, for whom Mindich is now compelled to gather funds to secure his bail, these substantial sums will originate from that nefarious mafia-controlled slush fund. Slush fund, also a bit on Napoleon IV. So that you don't think I'm making this up, here is a little excerpt for you. So, concerning Alibaba, why do I even show all this to you? It's so that you may share the same impression as I do. When Kolomoisky speaks, one unmistakably gets the distinct feeling that Mindich might be merely an incidental and not a principal figure in this entire Mindichgate affair, this scandal frequently dubbed the Mindich tapes. Evidently, there are considerably more influential players entangled in this complex situation. Or to be more precise, let's call them the figures who were the masterminds behind all these illicit money laundering operations. Who devised all of this, who orchestrated it all, and in Kolomoisky's view, once more, I'm just forming an impression here, but this individual, Kolomoisky, you can observe the expression on his face as he reiterates it, clearly ridiculing the entire narrative. In Kolomoisky's opinion, Mindich is not the main guy at all. Now, on to Alibaba. Here is a fragment of the speech by Mr. Klimenko, the head of SAP.
Some meetings and then assigns tasks to law enforcement agencies for them to pursue and keep persecuting NABU detectives and Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office prosecutors. This is not a normal state of affairs, is it?
Again from the start.
Alibaba conducts certain meetings, assigning specific tasks to law enforcement agencies so as to...
Once more, pay close attention to what Alibaba is doing here.
Alibaba holds certain meetings and assigns tasks to law enforcement agencies for the explicit purpose of having them pursue and continuously persecute NABU detectives.
So, what exactly is the logic here? If we accept that someone is persecuting NABU detectives, as stated by the head of the Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, then this situation clearly stems from last summer's incidents when public accusations against various anti-corruption bodies began surfacing. Public accusations surfaced between the Prosecutor General's office, the Security Service of Ukraine, and anti-corruption agencies concerning the potential influence the Russian Federation could be exercising over these anti-corruption bodies, correct? Then came the cardboard revolution, that scandalous vote in the Verkhovna Rada, the threat to Ukraine's funding via the Ukraine Facility Program, and so on. So, logically, who then, tell me, who's setting these tasks? What kind of individual would be interacting with law enforcement agencies at that level? And it isn't specified, is it? It doesn't explicitly state which specific law enforcement agencies are being enlightened or instructed. So the head of SAP is basically speaking in riddles in some kind of puzzles. However, we did find individuals among us who are not afraid to shoulder the responsibility and clearly decode the very abbreviation, which is ALIBABA, AB. And this is what AB stands for, based on Ms. Bezukhla's initial interpretation. Look, in our political family, Yermak is usually called, or rather coded, simply and modestly as AB. But behind these seemingly obvious initials hides his extended call sign, Alla Borisovna. Why this tradition exists and what the singer has to do with it, I have no idea. I don't understand right now if Mariana Bezula is being ironic or if, well, someone really calls Andriy Borisovich AB, as in Alla Borisovna. Well, it's sort of a half joke, but the underlying logic here is that something's essential. And if this is indeed the case with Alibaba, it might possibly be an abbreviation derived from certain words found within the name AB. Andriy works rather nicely for the A part, and Borisovich perfectly suits the B part, making it Andriy Borisovich. And now People's Deputy Zheleznyak is writing about this more openly. Incidentally, he was present today at the Parliamentary Temporary Investigative Commission, a TSC, where a number of specific officials were in attendance, though not representatives from all departments. For example, they invited First Deputy Prime Minister Yulia Sviridenko. She did not arrive and was not present at all. But that's another story. Why didn't they all show up? From Energoatom, for example, it also seems no one was there. But here's what Zheleznyak writes following this very meeting today. Consider this a political statement, says Zheleznyak. But against the backdrop of everything we've heard and are yet to hear, I believe that Andriy Yermak must be dismissed. Otherwise, absolutely nothing will change. In just a couple of months, there will merely be fewer people from Halushchenko's camp and more from Kuleba's. And there will be another attempt to attack Nabu and SAP. Don't doubt it. I'm already convinced the preparations have begun. And can you guess who is involved in this once again? And most importantly, how? I am also absolutely convinced that the president is not going to dismiss him himself. He was with him in Athens yesterday and is in Paris today, so I expect he'll cling on to the bitter end, losing popularity and continuing to claim, quote, he knew nothing at all yet again. And then we read this. Indeed, he is the Alibaba mentioned in the tapes, but in this context, he's portrayed as the villain. Therefore, Zhelezniak concludes that Andriy Yermak is unmistakably the person identified as Alibaba in the recordings made by NABU and the Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office. And it's likely he's the one instructing law enforcement to exert pressure on NABU via security forces. It is, I must assert, on one hand, a fairly evident accusation, provided one properly examines the political affiliation of the unyielding deputy, Zhelezniak, and where he truly positions himself. Yet, on the flip side, it's a rather audacious claim, and when one ventures to make such declarations, it truly necessitates substantiation with something more concrete than merely a logical deduction that AB stands for Andriy Borisovich. Indeed. However, from another perspective, there's a significant amount of discussion emerging from various sources, indicating that the president's office is experiencing instability within the power vertical. Specifically, Volodymyr Zelensky might very well lose his influence, and this is considered a unique sort of test, as many are writing about these matters. Well, Telegram channels that are quite oppositional to Volodymyr Zelensky say that a kind of test of the state of play with the parliamentary majority could be the vote on next year's budget. A source within Servant of the People reports that issues with the votes are anticipated. Against this backdrop, Poroshenko's party announced a no-confidence vote in the cabinet, urging a new government of national salvation. Meanwhile, the head of the presidential office is diligently working to restore the public image of the office, among other efforts. You see, essentially, as I comprehend it, this gathering was convened at the specific behest of Andriy Yermak. This was a meeting with Chargé d'Affaires Julie Davis, who is currently managing Ukrainian affairs in the United States on a temporary basis. And in parallel, during this very meeting, Andriy Borisovich was essentially elucidating the details of this corruption scandal that had emerged within the energy sector as it was indeed being discussed. Andriy Yermak has made a post about this, but what's interesting is Julie Davis hasn't reacted, no official statement from the Chargé d'Affaires. As of now, as I'm making this review, there is none. And that's quite fascinating too. Simultaneously, on a parallel track, we observe here, I've taken a screenshot, so you might not instantly recognize this individual, but she is indeed our ambassador to the United States. of America, Mrs. Stefanishina, sitting with her back turned to us, is responding to a journalist's inquiry concerning her alleged involvement in the crime. A person who was once closely associated with Volodymyr Zelensky, and Ms. Stefanishina states that the case materials, my friends, listen closely, this is crucial, are already with the American Congress. This signifies that all Congress members can readily review the materials and information in the possession of the official gaining access to these important documents. Who's providing them? Our embassy is basically, and in Stefanishina's opinion, the materials being provided will be enough to form a clear picture. Is this a desperate attempt to salvage their situation, especially if there happens to be some sort of conspiracy against them? B, is it truly an attempt or not? I firmly believe this is a very vivid attempt. But from another perspective, this action is regrettably quite belated, truly a day late and $1 short by, shall we say, roughly 5 or 6 days at this point. Wouldn't you agree? It's delayed.